Hello, World Tank Blizzards. It's Littlefinger with a full tank review today. FV201. This is a British Tier 7 heavy tank. You see it in the garage here with the premium camo called You Rock. The reason for this review so soon is because the offer here on the table for FV201 and T23E3 for 7,500 gold is really good when you look at it in comparison to the Thanksgiving offers for a Tier 8 premium tank for 7,500 gold, right? So now you're getting two tanks, yes, a tier down, but you also get 9 equipment slots unlocked for each tank, and you get the premium camo for each of these tanks. Now, I will say the downside to both of these tanks is they've got a high rate of fire gun, a reload of around 3.5 seconds. So you have to be on target all of the time. So they make them a little bit more of a difficult tank to play. But you can see with this British tank, you've got some nice sloped armor. It is a great hull down tank, 8 degrees of gun depression. Only 30 kilometers per hour of top speed, and we'll get into all of this into this review. So if you like my content, hey, please hit that subscribe button. You can see from consumables, and I haven't been running through consumables lately, I am running adrenaline. I would easily accept it if you wanted to run the engine power boost for climbing hills and whatnot, since you do already have such a great reload time. Provisions here, I'm trying something a little bit different. I've gone with the pudding and tea and the black tea. You're going to notice that here in the traverse speeds primarily, a little bit in the view range. You're probably not going to notice 30 damage per minute or 0.04 seconds on your reload time. But what that does is it takes away the protective crew. So I just wanted to see how that ran with this tank, and so far so good. Plenty of room for ammunition in this tank. You don't need 27 rounds of APCR, I promise. But make sure when you do purchase that, it's with that credit button right there. If we go to equipment, you can see how I've got it loaded out. Gun rammer, defense system, improved optics, enhanced gun lane drive, enhanced armor, engine accelerator, refined gun, enhanced tracks, and consumable delivery system. Alright guys, here's Armor Inspector with the FV201 pulled up, getting shot by a Comet. And you've got 152 millimeters of frontal turret armor. But you can see with the slopes here across the front, we're running around 189. You've got a good bit of armor near the gun mantlet. The weak spot here is going to be just under the gun mantlet, and so we can see here, if this Comet is running calibrated shells, you can pen just underneath that area. Your hull has 88 millimeters of armor, but due to the slope, you've got 140 effective on the top glacis plate and 97 on the bottom. Now, if we switch this over to a Tier 8 heavy, let's say, you can see a lot of green all the way around. There's not a lot that you can do to protect this tank. So really what you want to be doing is getting yourself into a hold down position, using that 8 degrees of gun depression there, just peeking over a ridge line, taking your shot, and hoping that you don't get penetrated there. So you can see here, early decision making is important in this tank. While I was talking about the armor there, you saw we were barely maintaining 30 kilometers per hour, and I had originally thought to go over there where the enemy love is, but it was kind of a last minute decision, and I cut through the opening there knowing that there was a chance I would take a shot, and obviously we did make that trade with the JP, but gets us into a position here when you've got 8 degrees of gun depression. You can use this ridgeline here, and I'm also using a little bit of the side slope to my side for an additional support there to get that gun depression. 8 degrees is good, not great in that position. If you had a tank with 10 degrees, you'd be rocking it. But you can see this tank has such a high rate of fire, and our team did a great job there focus firing and pushing on in and getting those tanks out of the game. 238 splash damage, obviously, from the SU-152 camping in the corner. So that's the second shot I've taken, and I know he's over here somewhere. I see that our ISU needs a little help, and so I'm willing to take a shot, hoping that maybe I get it in the turret, but he's actually ready to aim and does a big 600 shot to my side. And by the time I get across, obviously the ISU doesn't need help anymore. Oh well, but 30 kilometers per hour. You can see it here. It's good. I think it's good in the sense that you can't get yourself into trouble in this tank. You really can't. You can't push too far. And so with us being bottom tier and 1748 and damage, 72,000 credits, was able to make that 881 in EXP, so top of the team there in experience points, due to the fact that we got some track shots and some spots in there. So just to reinforce my discussion earlier about the armor on this tank, I think the best way to play it is to try to get into high situations where you're aiming downward, and that really protects your hull and allows your turret to take most of the shots, and you'll be surprised at how much you do bounce off the turret in this tank. And so this is a situation here on Middleburg where I would expect, people might say, well, you could have probably used an engine boost there. Yeah, you're probably right, but you will notice in this game I do use the adrenaline a couple times just to increase that rate of fire. So without any sort of equipment, you're right at 2,800 damage per minute. And you can see I'm staying as far back as I can here, using this ridgeline, just aiming down as much as possible. Yeah, KV2, that's how you don't play hills. Yeah, because, when you got 4 or 5 tanks all rounding the corner all at the same time, yeah, you're going to get lit up like that. But you can see here, we're bouncing shots left and right off of this turret. 545, there's another nice bounce. And we're over 1,200 in blocked shots already. And, to me, that is the name of the game with a heavy tank, is to use that armor and absorb as many shots as possible from the enemy, because when you're bouncing shots, they're not doing damage to your teammates, right? So just pushing around the corner here, trying to find a little bit more of a weakness. We are going to take a shot there from that KV2, and we have now dropped adrenaline, able to track that M8 and take him out now. KV somewhere in that area, not quite sure where. We are going to hide behind the hill here, and I was hoping that Sentinel would push on around and light up that KV2. There he is behind the building. Sure enough, he's done it. KV2 has just shot and killed said Sentinel, and this is when I noticed that FV201 is on the other side. So trying to focus fire here and get this guy out, and we managed to do so. .2-second reload. You've really got to be on target all the time, and that makes it difficult. So it's really particular in this tank that you get into positions where you're protecting as much of that armor as possible. And you can see here on the cap time, and we're at 900. We've got 2 caps. It's 2 on 2. Oh, I've got a tank somewhere behind me trying to get around and at least block him from getting shot in the butt. And by the time we take out that Tiger there, we're at 990, and we're just going to go ahead and end this game here with cap points. But 2835 in damage, that's a lot of shots in this tank. 20 shots landed. That was good for an ace mastery badge there, primarily because we had those 5 kills. Alright guys, just so I can beat this point to death, here on Faust, we have pushed all the way over to heavy. Now, as you saw, I was pointing my turret at where I might potentially get shot. That's just a good overall tactic, because obviously if you get shot in the front of the turret, you're more likely to bounce than on the side. Now, the point I am trying to ingrain in your head is in this tank, high points, using that 8 degrees of gun depression, and only exposing as little of that turret as possible. And you can see here we've got 2 FVs to the right, and we've got an IS in the middle. And I have some shots in down here. Look at this. We're bouncing. We've bounced 3 out of those 4 shots so far. Don't quite have gun depression to get that IS at this point. There's another bounce. So we've frustrated those FVs. We've kept them from pushing forward. And I noticed that the IS backs up. Gives us an opportunity here to come in and get this kill shot. And so we've taken out 1 of the 3 tanks, and I managed to do that without taking too much damage. We do go on to win this game. And so for the final game I'm going to show, this is Mayan Ruins, top tier supremacy, and fairly standard practice for me to go to the middle of the map here. So I'm going to call, well, I don't think I do call, but yep, telling everyone that I'm going to C. Actually, I'm kind of keeping an eye over B. And we'll see what happens with this ARL, because he called A, which doesn't really make sense. We've got more heavies than they do, so chances are they're not going A. If he goes there alone, then he's basically just wasting time getting a cap, and chances are the rest of our team gets pushed on. But we'll see what happens here. Bulldog's already spotted up. SP1C is on the bridge right there on the other side. I'm not sure what he's. It looks like he's about to jump off. Getting shot. Yeah. When I say get on hills, guys, I don't mean like, expose yourself. Use these hard covers like that to protect your tank. I tell you what. But here we are. WZ is pushed all the way through on the bridge. I guess the SP1C must have jumped or something. I don't know. But we're in a position now. We're actually capping the base here, and get another shot into the side of the WZ. So, the interesting dynamic with a really high rate of fire tank. And I've said it many, many times on channel here. My preference is for, a medium rate of fire with a medium damage, not a really long reload with high damage. That would be my least favorite. So this would, this playstyle here is second best to me anyway. You can see we're now down 2 tanks, but yet we have 2 caps. So I see this SU is pushing, and what I've done here is I've given myself a little bit of distance from those tanks down the hill, and I'm in now a position where I can get hull down if they do push me. But it looks like the Smasher's staying down there, and I really want to get this SU out of the game before I take a big shot from him. So we managed to do that. Now I'm just worried about the Smasher, and look at that. Tables have turned. It's now 2 on 2. Smasher's just fired. So my goal here is to make every shot count and to keep my armor in front of him so he can't pen me. He can only do splash damage, and most I'm going to take is 600. But there's a 250 roll, and I get a 300 from that TD I couldn't finish off earlier. And so here we go. Finish him off, not worrying about taking a hit. And 2892 in damage. So you can see, even with a low rate of fire tank, you can get some pretty good scores. It's going to be difficult to get super high scores in this, but it's a very capable tank, and I like it a good bit, just because it's smooth to drive. It it has a lot going for it with that 8 degrees of gun depression, high rate of fire, and 150% credit coefficient. You're going to make some good money in it. And that's a heck of a deal compared to only getting one tank at Tier 8. You get 2 tanks at Tier 7. And we'll talk about the T23E3 here shortly. But for now, guys, hope you've got a few tips out of that. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're having fun out there. And remember, get educated, not fingered. Littlefinger out.